Hi, everybody. This is Roxanne Steed. I've got I thought I'd answer a question right here personally with you guys. And I've had a lot of people ask me when they're starting out classes and they haven't painted before. And so what they always want to know is, what paint do I choose? I mean, I give a lot of suggestions on my blog, and I talk um, pretty much about whether you're a brand new beginner and you're not sure if you want to continue with this, and you're just kind of exploring things, or maybe you've tried some things before, and you kind of want to upgrade your supplies. So I'm going to address both of those things right now. Um, so let me pop down to my webcam, and I'm going to show you all about what these can do. Whether you're going to choose student grade paints or professional grade paints, how to make that decision, and what you might want to know when you go to the art store. So let me pop down, and I'm going to give you a little demo on some paper, and we'll talk about what's available and how to make that decision. So let's see, let's get the webcam popped here. Okay, so let's aim this a little better. And first I'm going to talk about student grade paints and what's available out there on the market. There's so many things, and I've bought different things over the years just so that I can try them out and know what's out there so that I can tell my students, stay away from this, or go for this, or this is okay, or um, and I'll understand why, and that way they can know what they're getting for their money. So let's start with some of these little kits that they come in a clear plastic lid. They're pretty inexpensive. This one, now there's a lot of stuff out there that's really not great stuff. This Yarka brand happens to be actually pretty decent. It's paint that's made in Russia. Um, Natural pigments. They're actually pretty good for the price. However, the kit is a real pain to use. It's, you open it once or twice, the thing falls apart. And then you don't have a pan mixing lid. It's not really convenient to use. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. So we'll come back to this in a second. There's little kits made by Koi. They are handy, they're light, they're kind of cute, but I find their paint really chalky. So we're also going to come back to this in a minute. There's, other off brands. This one's Marie's. It's got a beautiful box. I mean, what's to love about the box? The paint I'm not so in love with. So the biggest thing that makes the difference between student grade and professional grade paint is the fact that in student grade paint, well, first off, it's the price. So why does it cost so much less, and why do professional grade paints cost so much more? And the reason is there's a lot of binder in student grade paints. And binder is the stuff that holds all the pigment granules together. And so when you have a lot of binder, some of these binders, can get kind of chalky. And so there, even among student grade paints, there is a big difference. So I'm going to show you one of the things that I have everybody do in my all about color class. So I want you to take a permanent marker, like a Sharpie marker. This one happens to be permanent. Let's give it a try. All we need is to make one big line like that, and let it dry a little bit, because we don't want to. We want to make sure it's good and dry. We don't want to have it running all over the paper, because what we're going to do is we're going to do some test swatches with all these different kinds of paint. And I want to talk to you about, what's chalky, what's not. And, when people talk about this beautiful glow of watercolors, and then they come up with a box like this, and it's like, well, I'm not getting that glow. What's happening? And it's because the colors they're kind of chalky. So let's pull up this yellow. It's a really beautiful bright yellow. And you can see how it's laying on top of this black. We're going to let it totally dry. And what's going to happen when we lay these paint strokes across is that some are going to be really transparent and some are going to be opaque. And not that there's anything wrong with opaque paints, but if you're trying to get a really translucent quality, that opacity, once you get a couple layers of paint down, then the light can't pass through to the white of the paper anymore. So anyway, I can, try out a couple of different colors from this pan set. Let's try mixing up this red. These re-wet pretty easily. It's not bad in that regard. Some of the student grade paints, it's really hard to get these pans to re-wet. Okay, that's really laying on top of that. I mean, there's a beautiful intensity of color, and they re-wet pretty easily, because there's some student grade paints you really have to scrub at to get it to lift and to be able to make a little puddle of paint. Let me show you some of these. These actually, I think, are kind of pretty. But again, this container is not really a joy. Now, you want to wait for these to dry before you can tell, is it really opaque or transparent? Let's try this brown. So we'll let that dry. Let's try this Marie's set. I mean, what a beautiful box, but I wasn't that in love with the paint. Let's try one of these blues. Oh, it's actually kind of a purpley looking color. So first, I'm finding these really hard to re-wet because I'm getting, it's lovely right here, but I'm not getting much intensity to my color. For as much as I'm swirling and digging, I'm not getting a lot of intensity. Looks like it might be transparent though. Let's try this deep blue. So I'm really having to dig at this puddle. You can see me really working this brush in there trying to get some of this color up. Okay. All right, that might not be too bad. It looks like ultramarine blue. Let's try this ochre color. Now, ochre is opaque. Yeah, that really sits on top of there. So anyway, maybe it's not a bad choice, but it's definitely not my favorite. I find, them, a little bit on the hard to re-wet side. Let's see how this one performs. Yeah, that's going to be, I can just see this laying up. Let me get it closer to the camera. So as these dry, you can see there's there's a chalkiness on top of this black line. This looks like it might be semi-transparent. Um, this was transparent, transparent, transparent. That's, I have to wait for that to dry. I know the ochre, there's a little bit of, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, um, but it sits up on top of that black line. Just has a chalkier look to it. Let's go to, there's these wonderful kits out. These are fun looking. They're, relatively inexpensive. And when I say relatively, I mean like, they're, I'm trying to remember if this was 20 bucks or 40 bucks. All of these are, I think these were less, but a lot of these are around 20 bucks for a kit, which is really inexpensive. And I think at the most, the Winsor Newton Cotmans are about 40 for the student grade. Let's see what we got here. So this is really pretty, and I've seen, lots of people using these, and I think, wow, it's really lovely. For one, these little things don't stick in here super well, but it's a cute kid, I gotta tell you. All right, clean glass of water here. So let's try this icy blue. Yeah, that's definitely an opaque color. As you can really see how that's sitting up on top of that black line. Let's try this pink tone. It's really pretty. I think this one might be transparent. Let's have a look. I'll have to wait till it dries. But even that's sitting up on top of that line right now. We'll see how it dries out. The thing with some of these kits is that it doesn't give you a listing of the actual pigment names. I mean, they have cutesy names like pinky and orange, yellow, cocoa, gray, icy blue, but they don't tell you what the pigment mix is in there. Like on your professional grade paints, it tells you what the chemical pigments are that's actually in that paint, which it really helps to know that, or it helps to be aware of that. Boy, that's going to be a really opaque one. So this is a gray, and it is probably just a black and white mixture that they have, and it's very chalky. I mean, you can just see that sitting on top of that black line. So the thing that happens when somebody starts using this, and even if you have some of these colors that are transparent, you've got some that are opaque, and when you start mixing those two, those layers of paint, that if you actually work in layers, those layers that have opacity to them, they block that light. So suddenly you get this flat look. It's a very flat, chalky kind of look. And you don't have that luminosity that one traditionally thinks of with watercolor. Now, if you're just playing around and doodling, with very simple designs, these are fun. They're fun, lovely colors, but, I think it's important to know what you're getting. And if you're trying to grow your watercolor skills, some people, start out with a kit like this, and then they get disappointed and they think it's them. They think it's them that's, doesn't understand what they're doing, or they can't mix paint, or they think, oh, I'm a failure because everything looks chalky. Here's the thing, it's not you, it's the paint. So just go in knowing that it's not you, it is indeed the paint. So let's see, let's move some of this out of the way. And I want to talk to you. Oh, and I do have one more student grade I want to share. So there's one that I do recommend. And it's a Winsor Newton Cotman. And again, you still are going to have some of the problems with student grade paint in the fact that there's more binder. So it takes some effort to pull this up out of the pan. You really have to work this. Some of my students, when they would start out, they were like, my paintings are all watery. And they were very watery and super pale because they were just taking their brush and, doing some of these, little dabs, and they couldn't get any intensity. So their work was, super watery. Here I've got a puddle worked up already. And even though this had student grade paint in it, I have since refilled it. Once it got empty, I've refilled it with professional grade paints. So now some of these are still some of the original student grade. So this one is a professional grade. It's a Hansa yellow medium. It's a semi-transparent. Excuse me. But let's go to this one. So I believe this is a cadmium red, which is going to be, it's opaque anyway. But again, a lot of people will try mixing this with a transparent color and thinking they can get, a really nice glow. And, again, I can see that there's pigment that's laying up on top of that black line. Now, I used to think when I was new at painting, well, gosh, isn't, watercolor, if I just add enough water, can't I make it transparent? Well, yeah, it's going to look transparent if you have like one or two layers, but if you mix that with another color, and then if you start making, adding layers, like 3 layers, maybe 4, that's when those pigment granules are going to start stacking up on top of each other like lead plates. You just can't see through them. And so anyway, let's oh yeah, with the student grade, the Cotman pans. Once this little pan is empty, then I refill it with the professional grade paints. So then the pan itself is really nice. And the thing about I know there's some teachers who say they don't want their students even to touch the student grade paints because it's just going to be frustrating. You'll end up hating it, and it just go straight in and buy the good stuff. Well, I remember when I was just starting out painting, I had twin infants that were in diapers, and I was a stay-at-home mom at that point because I couldn't afford daycare for 2 babies. So, and when I wanted something for a hobby and to pick up painting, even a student grade paint was kind of a luxury at that time. So I get it. I didn't even know, what am I going to do with these fancy paints that are so expensive for a tube? If I had bought maybe 2 or 3 of these, it would be, the price of, a whole pan. So, at that point, that's when I decided, well, I bought what I could afford. So I always tell my students, if this is what you can afford, and if you're not sure that you're really gonna jump into this whole hog, some people, they kind of want to dip their toes in, and maybe that's all they want to explore that, and that's fine. That's a perfect way to test the waters. But then just know that once I coach you through mixing paint and how to use these, eventually you're going to want to upgrade to this, but that can come in time, and you don't have to buy all the colors all at once. So if you're going to buy professional grade paints, what do I suggest? Well, what I really suggest is just starting out with the color wheel and maybe one convenience color. I like quinacridone rose, Hansa yellow medium, and French ultramarine. They handle really nicely. And then what I end up doing, let me make another mark. Let's fill that in and let that dry. And so what I do is I buy the tubes of paint, and I'll put them in a pan. This is a pan I got just to try out. So you can buy these palette pans, empty. This one was $5 at Walmart. I mean, that is about as inexpensive as you can get. It's got a place to stick a brush if you desire. I do like having a thumb hole so if I'm outside painting, I can have a good grip on my paint so the wind doesn't catch it and blow it away. Um, and I've got room for plenty of paints and lots of space to mix. For $5 for the pan, then I can spend the money on the paints. There are bigger palettes. This is a nice one. It's got a rubber seal around it, so it's supposedly not going to leak, but you can see I've been kind of busy with this one lately. It's got room for 18 different colors, but it doesn't have a thumb hole. So I find this really messy when I'm outside. I usually use this one in my studio. I can lay it on my table and go for it. Yeah, there's no place to stick your thumb. So, and I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, like, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, when I'm outside, I really like to have a hold on my paints. So this is the pan. It's like my favorite one. And right now, everything is looking a little murky, but let's see if I can, once I wet these, the color will brighten up a little bit. So this is probably my favorite pan. It's an old schminky pan, but they sell empty metal pans this size. And if you've got room for a dozen or 14 paints, it's really plenty. You can mix so many colors out of a red and a yellow and a blue. So here's quinacridone rose. And usually I'll mix a puddle here. You can see how nice and bright that mixes up. Let's lay a nice swath across there. Now let's mix in a clean spot. I'm going to mix a little bit of Hansa yellow and a little bit of cobalt blue, or actually ultramarine blue. So let's see, let's get this Hansa yellow. It's a nice brilliant yellow. And then ultramarine blue. I think I've got a nice little puddle here that actually kind of flapped down and stuck on my paint. So anyway, with those three, we can mix a whole lot of colors, your purples, oranges, greens. And then one convenience color I like having is this burnt sienna. It's kind of like let me show you right there. It's a nice brown. You could also think of it as a very muted red. So if I have those three, I can mix so many colors. And I can mix even more if I have, three more primary colors that are just a little bit different. So here I've got three primaries, red, yellow, and blue. And I want a different yellow. I want, this one's kind of a cool yellow. I want a warmer yellow. And here is, I've got two cool reds, because if I really want a warm red, kind of like a warm red would be more orange, kind of like this color back here. So if I wanted this color of red, I can actually mix that with a little bit of yellow and one of my cool reds. And then, having a nice, what I call a warmer blue. Let's mix up some of that cobalt. With that, a warm blue and a cool blue, a warm red and a cool red, a warm yellow and a cool yellow. With those, I can mix just about anything. So essentially, that would be all you have to buy. And they also have tubes that come in, small sizes. So you could get the small size of the colors that you wanted, and it would cost you so much less. And that would give you a good feeling for, do you like working in this? So it's a great place to start. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope that kind of answers the question on what is the big difference between um, professional grade paints and student grade paints. One is how they mix with each other, how vibrant and intense the colors are. And the thing that I've also found, when you have student grade paints that you actually use a lot, you're going to go through them fairly fast because it takes a lot. You're digging in there to dig up the pigment and get some color on your get some color and intensity on your paper. And that's a whole different ballgame. So I've got a free video on my website, what I call the secret to watercolor, and that is all about how much water to how much pigment um, does it take, and how to make those determinations. So I'm hoping you find this helpful. Um, so one of the main things, again, the bottom line is, when you're looking at student grade versus professional grade paints, is you're getting pure pigment. You're getting, a lot less binder, and in the or you're getting more pigment, less binder, and in the student grade paints, you're getting a lot of binder and less pigment. So it takes harder, it takes longer to get some actual pigment to lay down, and then it's not quite as vibrant. I find that your professional grades are going to be that rich, vibrant, luminous color that watercolor is traditionally thought of. So let me pop back up, and I hope you find that helpful. Um, And if you like this video, share it with some friends, click subscribe, and we'll see you in the future. Thanks. Bye.